What happens when one of country music's most respected voices finds himself in the crosshairs of a morning show host who refuses to let controversial questions slide? Today we're diving deep into the explosive confrontation that had Chris Stapleton walking off the Today Show set, leaving millions of viewers stunned and the entertainment world buzzing. This wasn't your typical promotional interview gone wrong. This was a masterclass in how quickly things can spiral when artistic integrity collides with aggressive journalism. Before we break down every heated exchange that led to this unprecedented moment, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know what you think about artists standing their ground during interviews. The morning started like any other for Chris Stapleton. He was scheduled for a standard promotional segment to discuss his latest album and upcoming tour dates. What nobody expected was how quickly the conversation would shift from music to politics, and how one persistent line of questioning would push the Grammy-winning artist to his breaking point. As Stapleton settled into the familiar studio chair, the cameras rolled, and the host launched into what seemed like routine pleasantries. "Chris, thanks for being here this morning. Your new album has been climbing the charts, but I have to ask about something that's been making waves on social media." Stapleton's expression shifted slightly, a subtle tension creeping into his shoulders. "Well, I'm here to talk about the music, so let's focus on that." The host pressed forward, ignoring the deflection. "But surely you understand that your platform comes with responsibility. Your fans are looking for guidance on important issues affecting our country. My responsibility is to my music and my family." Stapleton replied, his voice measured but firm. "I've always believed that songs speak louder than political statements." "That's interesting, because your latest song, Broken Promises, seems to have some pretty clear political undertones. Are you saying that's not intentional?" Stapleton leaned back in his chair, clearly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. "Every song comes from a personal place. People can interpret art however they want, but I'm not going to sit here and decode every lyric for political meaning." The host wasn't backing down. "But Chris, with everything happening in our political climate, don't you feel an obligation to use your voice for something bigger than just entertainment?" "My voice is in my music," Stapleton said, his tone growing sharper. "That's where I've always put my heart, my beliefs, my experiences. I'm not a politician, I'm a songwriter." "Come on, Chris, your fans deserve to know where you stand. Are you supporting the current administration or not?" The studio fell silent except for the low hum of cameras. Stapleton's jaw tightened visibly as he stared directly at the host. "We agreed this interview would be about the album. I came here in good faith to talk about music, not to be ambushed with political questions." "Ambushed? I'm asking legitimate questions that your fans want answered. You can't just hide behind your songs when real issues are at stake." Stapleton's hands gripped the arms of his chair. "I'm not hiding behind anything. I'm choosing not to turn this interview into a political circus. There's a difference." The host leaned forward aggressively. "So you're saying you don't care about the issues affecting your fans? That seems pretty selfish for someone in your position." "Don't put words in my mouth," Stapleton shot back, his voice rising for the first time. "Caring about issues and turning every interview into a political debate are two completely different things. But your silence speaks volumes, doesn't it? At what point does staying neutral become complicity?" Stapleton stood up abruptly, his mic pack rattling against the chair. "This interview is over. I came here to talk about music, not to be lectured about complicity by someone who clearly had an agenda from the start." The host's eyes lit up, sensing the drama unfolding. "So you're just going to walk away when things get uncomfortable? Is that the message you want to send to your fans?" "The message I want to send," Stapleton said, his voice deadly calm, "is that some things are more important than playing games for television ratings." "Games? Chris, these are serious questions about serious issues. Your fans deserve honest answers." Stapleton turned back toward the host, his face flushed with anger. "My fans deserve respect, which is something you clearly don't understand. They deserve an artist who stays true to himself, not someone who bends to every political wind for a soundbite." The tension in the studio was palpable as crew members exchanged nervous glances. The host, clearly energized by Stapleton's reaction, pushed even harder. "So you're saying your fans don't deserve to know what you really think about the direction our country is heading?" Stapleton's eyes flashed with a mixture of frustration and disbelief. "What I think about our country's direction is reflected in every song I've ever written. If you actually listened to the music instead of fishing for headlines, you'd know exactly where I stand on the things that matter. But that's not good enough anymore, Chris. In today's world, artists need to be explicit about their positions. Your vague references aren't cutting it." "Vague references?" Stapleton's voice cracked with indignation. "I've written about working families struggling to make ends meet, about communities torn apart by economic hardship, about finding hope in dark times. How is that vague?" The host shuffled through some papers on the desk, clearly prepared for this moment. "Let me read you some of your own lyrics from Midnight Train to Nowhere. You sing about politicians making promises they never intend to keep, and rich men playing games with poor men's lives. Those sound pretty political to me. Those lyrics are about universal human experiences, not partisan talking points, Stapleton replied, his patience visibly wearing thin. Good music transcends political boundaries. It speaks to something deeper than whatever crisis is dominating the news cycle this week. So you're saying your music is above politics? That seems pretty naive for someone who's lived through as much as you have. Stapleton's hands clenched into fists at his sides. I'm saying my music is about truth, not politics. There's a difference between writing about real struggles and pandering to political movements for applause. The host sensed weakness and pounced, but isn't staying silent in the face of injustice just another form of privilege? You have millions of fans who look up to you, and you're choosing to stay comfortable instead of speaking out. Comfortable? Stapleton laughed bitterly. You think this conversation is comfortable for me? You think having my integrity questioned on national television is some kind of luxury? Your integrity is exactly what I'm questioning. Chris, can you claim to care about working families while refusing to take a stand on policies that directly affect them? The accusation hit like a physical blow. Stapleton's face went pale, then flushed red with anger. You don't know the first thing about what I care about or how I choose to make a difference in this world. Then enlighten us. Tell your fans where you stand on healthcare, on immigration, on economic policy. Use this platform for something meaningful, instead of just selling albums. Everything I do is meaningful. Stapleton shot back. Every song, every concert, every moment I spend connecting with people through music is meaningful. Just because I don't turn my art into a political billboard doesn't mean I'm not making a difference. The host leaned back with a smug expression. But art without action is just entertainment, isn't it? At what point do you stop hiding behind your guitar and start taking real responsibility for your influence? Stapleton took a step closer to the host's desk, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Don't you dare tell me what responsibility looks like. I've spent my entire career writing songs that help people through their darkest moments. I've raised money for disaster relief, supported veteran causes, and used my platform to lift up other artists who needed a voice. But apparently none of that matters because I won't give you a soundbite for your political agenda. Those are all wonderful things, Chris, but they're also safe. They don't require you to take any real risks or challenge your comfortable position in the industry. Safe. Stapleton's voice rose again, echoing through the studio. You think it's safe to pour your heart into every song, knowing that millions of people are going to judge every word. You think it's safe to stand on stage night after night and bare your soul to strangers. The host pressed on relentlessly. I think it's safe to avoid taking positions that might alienate part of your fan base. I think it's safe to let other people fight the hard battles while you profit from staying neutral. Stapleton's entire body tensed, his hands shaking with barely controlled rage. You have no idea what battles I'm fighting or what sacrifices I've made for my art. Just because I don't broadcast every political opinion doesn't mean I'm hiding from anything. Then prove it, right here, right now. Tell us where you stand. On the issues that matter to your fans, the only thing I need to prove, Stapleton said through gritted teeth, is that I won't be bullied into compromising my values for your entertainment. The host's expression hardened, clearly frustrated by Stapleton's refusal to break values. Let's talk about values. Chris, is it valuable to stay silent while families are being torn apart by policies you could help change? Is it valuable to prioritize your career comfort over speaking truth to power? Stapleton's voice dropped to a deadly calm that somehow felt more threatening than his earlier outbursts. My values aren't up for debate on your morning show. They're woven into every note I play, every word I sing, and every decision I make about how I live my life. But that's exactly the problem, the host continued, shuffling more papers with theatrical precision. Your fans don't want riddles and metaphors anymore. They want leadership. They want someone willing to stand up and say what needs to be said. Leadership. Stapleton laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. You think leadership is about giving people easy answers and simple solutions. Real leadership is about helping people find their own strength, their own voice, their own truth. The host leaned forward aggressively. That sounds like a cop out, Chris. Real leadership is about taking a stand when it matters, not hiding behind philosophical platitudes. I'm not hiding behind anything, Stapleton replied, his jaw tight. I'm refusing to let you turn this interview into a political ambush. There's a difference between leadership and performative activism for television ratings. Performative activism. The host's voice rose with indignation. Is that what you call using your platform for social good? Is that what you call caring about issues bigger than your next album sales? Stapleton stepped even closer to the desk, his presence filling the space between them. Don't you dare question my commitment to social good. I've done more for communities in need through quiet action than you'll ever do through loud rhetoric. Quiet action doesn't inspire change, Chris. People need to see their heroes taking bold stands. They need to know you're willing to fight for what's right. What's right? Stapleton said, his voice trembling with controlled fury. Is staying true to who you are, instead of becoming whoever the media wants you to be this week. The host sensed blood in the water and pressed harder. So you're saying, you don't care about voting rights, about healthcare access, about climate change, about any of the issues that will define the next generation. Stop putting words in my mouth, Stapleton snapped. Of course, I care about those things, but caring about them doesn't mean I have to perform that caring for your cameras. Performance? Chris, this isn't about performance, it's about responsibility. When you have millions of followers, silence becomes complicity. Stapleton's hands slammed down on the desk with a resounding crash that made the host jump back. There's that word again, complicity. You want to talk about complicity? Let's talk about how you ambushed me with questions we never agreed to discuss. Let's talk about how you're trying to manipulate me into giving you content for your highlight reels. The host recovered quickly, emboldened by getting such a strong reaction. I'm trying to get you to be honest with your fans instead of hiding behind carefully crafted persona. This isn't a persona, Stapleton roared, his composure finally cracking completely. This is who I am, a songwriter, a musician, someone who believes that art can heal wounds that politics only make deeper. Art doesn't vote. Chris, art doesn't change laws. Art doesn't protect vulnerable communities from harmful policies. Art does something more important, Stapleton fired back. It reminds people of their humanity when everything else is trying to strip it away. It builds bridges when politicians are busy burning them down. The host rolled his eyes dismissively. That's beautiful poetry, but people are suffering right now, while you're worried about maintaining your artistic purity. Artistic purity. Stapleton's voice cracked with disbelief. You think this is about purity? This is about authenticity. This is about refusing to become a puppet for anyone's political agenda, including yours. My agenda, Chris, my agenda, is getting honest answers for the people watching this show. Your fans deserve to know who they're supporting when they buy your music. They're supporting someone who respects them enough to let the music speak for itself, Stapleton replied. They're supporting someone who won't insult their intelligence by pretending every complex issue has a simple solution. The host leaned back with a calculating smile. But some issues do have simple solutions, don't they? Like basic human decency. Like treating all people with respect regardless of their background. Don't you dare, Stapleton warned, his voice dropping to a whisper. Don't you dare imply that I lack basic human decency because I won't play your political games. I'm not implying anything, Chris. I'm asking direct questions and you're deflecting with emotional outbursts. Emotional outbursts. Stapleton's laugh was harsh and bitter. You ambush me with political questions after promising to discuss music. You question my integrity, you attack my character, and then you call my legitimate anger an emotional outburst. The host pressed on relentlessly. I call it what it is, a deflection tactic from someone who doesn't want to take responsibility for his influence. My influence is in my music, Stapleton said, his voice now shaking with rage. My influence is in the lives I've touched, through songs, through concerts, through the authentic connections I make with people who understand that art transcends politics. But does it really, Chris? Or is that just what you tell yourself to avoid taking harder stands on difficult issues? The question hung in the air like a challenge, and something in Stapleton's expression shifted. The anger was still there, but now it was crystallized into something colder, more resolved. You know what? You're right about one thing. Art doesn't transcend everything. It doesn't transcend disrespect. It doesn't transcend manipulation. And it sure as hell doesn't transcend bad faith journalism. The host sensed victory and leaned in for what he thought would be the killing blow. So you're admitting that your artistic idealism is just a convenient excuse to avoid taking real positions on real issues? No, Stapleton said, his voice suddenly calm in a way that made the entire studio feel dangerous. I'm admitting that. I was naive to think I could have an honest conversation with someone who had no intention of listening to my answers. I've been listening, Chris. I've been listening to a lot of deflection and philosophical rambling, but very few concrete answers about where you actually stand. Stapleton nodded slowly, as if finally understanding something fundamental. You want concrete answers. Here's one. I stand with artists who refuse to be bullied into political performances by journalists more interested in controversy than truth. That's not an answer. That's another deflection. It's the only answer you're going to get, Stapleton replied, reaching down to unclip his microphone. Because I'm done pretending this is anything other than an ambush disguised as an interview. The host's eyes widened as he realized what was happening. Chris, wait, we're not finished here. Your fans are watching. They deserve to hear your complete thoughts on these important issues. My fans, Stapleton said, pulling the mic pack from his belt, deserve better than watching me get manipulated by someone who thinks gotcha. Journalism is the same thing as holding people accountable. So you're just going to walk away. Right here on live television. Stapleton paused, the microphone cord still in his hand. I'm going to do what I should have done the moment you broke your word about what this interview would cover. I'm going to show some self-respect. Self-respect, Chris. This looks like a tantrum. This looks like someone who can't handle tough questions about his responsibilities as a public figure. The accusation stopped Stapleton cold. He turned back to face the host directly, his expression deadly serious. You want to know about responsibility? Real responsibility is keeping your word. Real responsibility is treating your guests with the respect you promised when you booked them. Real responsibility is journalism that seeks truth instead of manufacturing controversy. I am seeking truth, Chris. The truth about whether you're willing to use your platform for more than just personal profit. Personal profit. Stapleton's voice rose one final time, echoing through the studio. You think this is about profit? I've turned down more lucrative opportunities than you can imagine because they didn't align with my values. I've walked away from deals, from collaborations, from entire career paths because I refuse to compromise who I am. Then why won't you take a stand here? Because taking a stand and being manipulated into a political soundbite are two completely different things, Stapleton shot back. Because real conviction doesn't require a television audience to validate it. The host made one last desperate attempt to keep him in the chair. Chris, think about what you're doing. Think about the message this sends to young artists who look up to you. Are you teaching them to run away when things get difficult? Stapleton stopped walking and turned around one final time, his face showing a mixture of disappointment and resolve. I'm teaching them that you don't have to accept disrespect just because someone has a camera and a microphone. I'm teaching them that integrity sometimes means walking away from opportunities that compromise your values. Or you're teaching them that when you can't control the narrative, you take your ball and go home. No, Stapleton said, his voice now eerily calm. I'm teaching them the difference between a conversation and an interrogation. I'm teaching them that not every platform deserves your presence, especially ones built on deception. The host realized he was losing control of the situation entirely. Chris, please, let's reset. Let's talk about the music. Isn't that what you wanted? Stapleton almost smiled, but there was no warmth in it. 30 minutes ago, that might have worked, but you've shown your true intentions. You've shown that your word means nothing and that ambush tactics are more important to you than honest dialogue. I was doing my job, asking the questions that needed to be asked. Your job, Stapleton replied, placing his microphone on the interview table with deliberate care, was to honor the agreement we made about this interview. Instead, you chose sensationalism over integrity. The studio had fallen completely silent, except for the hum of cameras that were still rolling, capturing every moment of the unprecedented scene. Crew members stood frozen, unsure whether to intervene or simply document the collapse of what was supposed to be a routine promotional segment. This isn't over, Chris. You can't just walk away from legitimate questions about your role in society. Stapleton paused at the edge of the interview area, looking back at the host with something approaching pity. Watch me. With that, Chris Stapleton walked off the Today Show set, leaving behind a host scrambling to salvage what was left of the interview and millions of viewers, witnessing one of the most dramatic moments in morning television history. The entertainment world would spend weeks dissecting every word, every gesture, every implication of what had just unfolded, but the message was crystal clear. Sometimes walking away is the strongest statement you can make. What did you think about Chris Stapleton's decision to walk off when faced with aggressive questioning about his political views? Was he right to stand his ground, or should artists be expected to take public stances on political issues? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the moments that define our entertainment landscape.